Rosemary Kennedy was beautiful, warm, and full of life. She loved to dance, adored parties, and filled her diaries with the small joys of her days. She wrote long, affectionate letters, and once curtsied before the King and Queen of England. By every appearance, she was living a charmed life. But her family carried a private fear about her, about who she might see and what might happen if she did. And to make that fear go away, in 1941, they would do something that could never be undone. To understand her story, you have to go back to the very day she was born. It was 1918, and the great flu pandemic was sweeping the world. When her mother went into labor, the family doctor was delayed, and the nurses were told to wait for him. By some accounts, a nurse held the baby back for 2 hours to keep her from arriving too soon. If that story is true, those 2 hours, starved of oxygen, may have shaped the rest of her life. She was a beautiful, healthy-looking baby. But something from the start was different. Rosemary was slower to walk, slower to talk, slower to read than her brothers and sisters. And the Kennedys were not a family that made room for slow. Her parents were building an empire, wealth, politics, and a spotless public image. In a household that worshipped winning, a daughter who struggled did not fit the picture, so they hid it. Rosemary was moved from school to school, tutor to tutor. Her grades, her difficulties, her very diagnosis kept a tightly held family secret. The world was told the Kennedys were a large, perfect, glittering family. No one was to know that one of them was quietly falling behind. And yet, Rosemary was not the tragic figure the family feared. She kept diaries full of ordinary happiness, teas, dances, new dresses, the people she met. She could be affectionate, funny, and desperate to please the family she adored. In the late 1930s, her father was made U.S. ambassador to Britain, and the family moved to London. There, Rosemary was presented at the royal court in white before the king and queen. For that one shining moment, she was simply a beautiful debutante like any other. And in England, for the first time, she truly flourished. She was placed in a school with a patient teacher and a gentle routine that suited her. Her letters home from this time are calm, capable, and content. She was, by her own hand, happy. But happiness like that needed the right world around it. And that world did not last. When the war came, the family left London and returned to America. Rosemary, now in her early 20s, was placed in a convent school in Washington, and there she began to change. She grew restless, frustrated, hard to contain. At night, the nuns discovered she would slip out alone into the city and return in the small hours. To the Kennedys, this was a nightmare. It was 1940. Her brother Jack's future was being built. The family name was climbing toward the White House, and a headstrong young woman out alone at night was a scandal waiting to happen. An unapproved romance. A man who might take advantage. A pregnancy that could stain everything. They did not ask how to help Rosemary find her feet. They asked how to make the problem stop. Joseph began to search for a solution, quietly and on his own. In Washington, he heard of a radical new operation promoted by 2 doctors. Their names were Walter Freeman and James Watts. They claimed their procedure could calm the agitated and fix troubled minds. It was called a prefrontal lobotomy, severing connections in the front of the brain. It was new, unproven, and to most of the medical world, alarming. But Joseph was certain. And Joseph was used to getting his way. In November 1941, without telling his wife, he arranged for 23-year-old Rosemary to have it. She was awake as the operation began. As they worked, they asked her to talk, to recite poems, to count backward, to sing God Bless America. They cut a little more each time she spoke, listening until her words began to slow. And when she finally fell silent and could say no more, that was how they knew to stop. The operation was not a calming. It was a catastrophe. When Rosemary woke, the vibrant young woman who had danced and written letters was gone. She could no longer walk unaided. She could barely speak. She could not care for herself. By many accounts, she was left with the capacity of a small child. Everything the family had feared she might become, she now could never be at all. She was sent away, first to a hospital, then to an institution far from home. She would live there, cared for by nuns, for the rest of her life. And for roughly 20 years, her own mother did not visit her. Her siblings were told almost nothing about where she had gone, or why. The public was told nothing at all. For decades, the family papered over her absence with vague, comforting words. She was shy, she was teaching, she was happiest away from the spotlight. Even as her brother became the most famous man in the world, Rosemary stayed hidden. It was only slowly, over many years, that the truth began to surface. That there had been an operation, that it had gone wrong, that she had been all but erased. But the story did not end only in silence. Her sister Eunice never stopped thinking about what had happened to Rosemary. In 1968, Eunice founded a movement for exactly the people the world had once locked away. It grew into the Special Olympics, a stage and dignity for those who had been hidden. As president, her brother Jack quietly expanded help for people with disabilities too. The sister they had tried to make disappear had, in the end, changed millions of lives. Rosemary herself lived a long life. She died in 2005 at the age of 86, hidden, in one way or another, for more than 60 years. We like to think the cruelest things are done by monsters, but Rosemary wasn't destroyed by strangers, or enemies, or villains. She was failed by the people who loved her most, by a family so frightened of embarrassment that they chose to quiet her rather than understand her. She spent a single afternoon on an operating table, and she paid for it with the next 60 years of her life. The world remembers the Kennedys for everything they built. It should also remember the daughter they broke, trying to look perfect. And the only thing she was ever really guilty of was not being the child they needed her to be.